Today, we're diving into one of the most surprising contract extensions of the offseason. And trust me, you're going to want to hear the details because this deal completely flipped expectations. What started as a quiet rumor quickly became one of the most calculated and strategic moves by any front office in recent memory. A quarterback, often overlooked or doubted by some fans and analysts, just landed a contract that not only secures his future, but also puts his team in an excellent position moving forward. If you haven't been keeping tabs on what's been happening in Las Vegas lately, well, the football scene is heating up. A lot of big-name players are in town, and so are plenty of team visitors, which adds even more weight to the decisions being made right now. And yeah, if you're always on the lookout for content about this team, you're in the right place. There's always something happening, especially during the offseason when things get extra unpredictable. Now, let's get into the meat of the story. This quarterback's contract. The new deal stretches into the years 2025, 2026, and 2027. What's really eye-opening here isn't just the base salary, it's the cap structure. Because when you're dealing with a high-level quarterback, base salary is usually not the part that defines a contract value. It's all about the cap hit and how that money is spaced out. For the upcoming season, the cap number is set at $40 million. Next year, it drops significantly to $26.5 million, which for a starting quarterback with this level of experience is an incredible number. Then in 2027, it jumps back up to $39.5 million. But here's the catch. There are no guarantees that year. That gives the team incredible flexibility. They can make moves, adjust the roster, or even plan for the future depending on how things play out. This contract didn't just come together overnight. It's the result of some pretty smart negotiating and a vision for long-term team building. And listen, everybody involved deserves credit. This is one of the most team-friendly yet player-respecting deals out there. The quarterback signed a 2-year extension worth $75 million in April of 2025. Out of that, $66.5 million is guaranteed in case of injury, and $58.5 million was fully guaranteed at signing. That's a huge chunk of money locked in, and it shows how much the team believes in this guy. Let's talk about those guarantees for a second. For the year 2025, his full base salary is guaranteed. On top of that, $18.5 million of his salary for 2026 is already locked in. Now, this player also received a $16 million bonus from his previous deal, which still counts toward the total guarantees. But here's the strategic part. If he's still on the roster by the third day of the league year in 2026, he gets another $8.5 million fully guaranteed. Add to that $10.5 million in performance-based incentives, and you start to see just how carefully this contract was built. The cap hit for 2025 went up by $9 million as a result of this new deal. But again, this is where strategy comes into play. You're looking at a quarterback who's getting paid like a mid-tier starter while giving top-tier flexibility to his franchise. Honestly, if I had to grade this contract today, I'd slap an A+ on it without hesitation. Not just for the numbers, but for what it represents. The reality is, this quarterback has performed. He's not just some guy filling a roster spot. He's a legitimate starter with top 10 potential, especially now that he has a coaching staff that seems to trust his game and an offensive line that's far more stable than what he's dealt with in past years. And look, people love to throw around big numbers like $40 million, but that's not really team money. It's coming from ownership. It's not affecting the salary cap in the way some folks think. What this deal really amounts to is a practical 2-year agreement worth about $66.5 million. That's around $33 million per season for a guy who has shown he can lead a team. When you compare that with other quarterback contracts around the league, this starts to look like an absolute bargain. Especially when you factor in the future cap numbers, $26.5 million next year, no guarantees in year 3. That is gold from a general manager's perspective. Plus, there are performance incentives baked in, completion percentage, passing yards, touchdowns, team wins, all of which motivate the player without tying the team's hands. Now, let's rewind a little and look at what this quarterback has done in the last 3 seasons. He's racked up more wins than some of the so-called elite quarterbacks, and yet his earnings have been far lower. That comparison is almost laughable when you stack the contracts side by side, because at the end of the day, you sign a quarterback to win games. Leadership, locker room presence, work ethic, all of that matters, no doubt. But if you're not winning games, none of that matters. And this guy, he's been winning. Only 6 quarterbacks in the entire NFL have posted at least 27 wins over the past 3 seasons, and he's one of them. That puts him in elite territory, whether people want to admit it or not. Sure, he hasn't won in the playoffs yet, and that's fair criticism. But let's be real. Playoff success often comes down to roster depth and coaching, not just one player. Give him a stronger team around him, and those postseason wins will come. Another reason this deal is so smart: the exit options. If, for some reason, things go south, the team has the option to move on in 2026 or 2027. And if they do cut ties, the dead cap hit would be just $8 million. Very manageable. But here's where it gets really interesting. If quarterback salaries keep rising like they have been, then by 2027, average QBs will be getting $55 million a year. This guy will be sitting at under 40. That's a steal, plain and simple. The contract structure was built with intelligence. I don't expect the team to release him this season or next, but the flexibility is there. And in a league where things can change overnight, that flexibility is huge. Trades happen, unexpected stars emerge, and sometimes you need to pivot. This deal gives the team room to do just that. No dead money in 2027. No dead money in 2026. And the possibility of a trade opens up as early as next offseason, depending on how things play out. That opens up an entirely new conversation about drafting a quarterback in the near future. With a deal like this, the team could easily bring in a young QB and develop him behind a proven starter without any financial headaches. If the veteran performs, great. You got a playoff-caliber leader at a discount. If not, you hand the reins to the next guy and keep building. It's the best of both worlds. What makes this situation even more intriguing is how the rest of the roster fits into the equation. For example, Max Crosby's recent extension mirrors some of the ideas in this quarterback deal. Crosby's contract also stretches to 2027 without any guaranteed money that year, which gives the front office even more flexibility. It's clear that there's a shared philosophy here, one where performance dictates future security and the team is always in control. There's a real sense of long-term planning here. The coaching staff, the front office, they're not just thinking about the next 12 months. They're thinking about how to build a consistent contender year after year. That's rare in today's NFL, where teams often throw money at problems and hope for the best. This organization is doing the opposite. They're building a foundation. And from where I'm sitting, it looks solid. Now, let's shift gears just a bit and talk about what's happening around this team as the draft approaches. There's a wave of visitors coming through the facility, and each one adds a new layer of intrigue. The quarterback position, despite this new contract extension, is still under evaluation. That might sound strange at first. Why scout quarterbacks if you just paid one a huge amount of money? But that's exactly what makes this front office smart. They're thinking 2, 3 years ahead. They're not just focused on the starter right now. They want to build a room with depth, with development, and with options. Take the quarterback from Ole Miss, for example. He's been linked to the team in recent conversations. And what makes this situation even more interesting is that he went to school with a current player on the roster. That kind of connection could matter when building locker room chemistry. Now, I personally wouldn't spend a first-round pick on this quarterback, but if he's still there in round 2, that's a different conversation. The buzz around the league is that he probably won't fall that far, but the team is doing their homework just in case. And that's just one name. There are more quarterbacks being evaluated, some flying under the radar, others climbing up draft boards fast. One in particular is expected to be picked on the 3rd day, but make no mistake, this guy has serious arm talent. He might not be ready to start today, or even next season, but with a few years to sit and learn behind an experienced starter, he could develop into something special. And that timeline fits perfectly with how the current starter's contract is structured. There's also another quarterback making waves. He's been the subject of a lot of speculation, especially considering how many times he's met with this team. That alone tells you something. Where there's smoke, there's usually fire. I've always believed this team would draft a quarterback on day 3, and now it seems more likely than ever. They've scheduled multiple visits, held long meetings, and kept their intentions quiet. That's usually a sign they're serious. But it's not all about quarterbacks. Let's talk about defense, because the team has their eyes on a couple of top-tier prospects on that side of the ball, too. One name that keeps coming up is a hard-hitting defender who really stood out last season. If he's available on day 2, I'd be thrilled if the team pulled the trigger. With the current defensive scheme, he'd be a perfect fit, and considering the coach's ties to his former school, the connection makes a ton of sense. Then there's the edge rusher out of Michigan. He's drawn comparisons to a player that was taken in the second round a few years ago and went on to make a huge impact. The team seems to be thinking about the future at the outside linebacker position, and this guy fits the mold. His name should definitely be on the radar going into day 2 of the draft. But maybe the most intriguing name floating around the facility right now is an offensive lineman who could very well be the team's pick at number 6 overall. Now, I know some folks might be shocked if the team goes O-line that early, but that might just be because they haven't paid close enough attention to the coach's history. He has a track record of investing in the trenches, especially with athletic linemen who have the potential to play multiple positions. There's been some debate about whether this prospect is better suited as a tackle or an interior lineman due to his arm length, but one of the team's coaches reportedly loves his skill set either way. Adding to that, another Michigan product, a dominant defensive tackle, is visiting today. In my opinion, this guy is the best at his position in the entire draft class. Some people might argue otherwise, but when you factor in leadership, motor, and production, it's hard to top what this guy brings to the table. He's expected to be a major presence during this visit, and don't be surprised if his name gets called early in round 1. We've also got reports of another quarterback who's finishing up his visit as I'm recording this. This is someone who's been on the radar for a while now. He's not necessarily expected to start right away, but he has great upside and the kind of arm talent that coaches love to work with. With the right system and coaching, he could turn into something big down the road. And again, this all ties back to the structure of that quarterback contract. With no guaranteed money in the 3rd year, the team can bring the young player, let him grow, and see how things develop. What if the league's most dominant cornerback suddenly lined up against a team that just made him a legend? Imagine Patrick Surtain, too, donning the iconic silver and black of the Las Vegas Raiders. Sounds impossible? Not entirely. With rumors swirling and Vegas reportedly exploring aggressive defensive upgrades, the idea of prying Surtain from the Denver Broncos, their bitter AFC West rivals, has fans and analysts alike on high alert. Surtain, fresh off a 2024 campaign that earned him AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year honors, has cemented his status as the premier lockdown corner in the NFL. His resume sparkles for interceptions, a pick-6 against the Raiders themselves, and a league-best ability to erase top receivers. Despite the Broncos locking him into a 4-year, $96 million extension just last September, insiders suggest Denver's ongoing roster rebuild could make even their prized defensive star available for the right price. Sources close to the situation hint that Las Vegas is not only watching, but quietly working the phones. With defensive coordinator Patrick Graham pushing for a true cornerstone in the secondary and the Raiders flush with draft capital, the pieces could align. The idea of stealing Surtain from the Broncos, a team they edged in Week 1 of 2023, adds extra spice to an already fierce rivalry. Of course, pulling off such a blockbuster move would take more than just desire. Denver's front office, under Sean Payton, has repeatedly emphasized Surtain as a foundational piece. But in a league where big contracts, shifting priorities, and bold trades rewrite expectations every offseason, nothing is truly off the table. Especially not when a team like the Raiders sees a path to instant defensive dominance. If this move happens, it won't just shift the balance of power in the AFC West, it could redefine it. Keep your eyes on Allegiant Stadium and your ears open. Something big might be brewing in Las Vegas, and if Patrick Surtain too is part of it, the entire NFL will be watching. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.